A good Thursday evening, everyone. I know I've been a little behind on doing these web extras, so here it is. It's a Thursday instead of a Friday because tomorrow I'm going to be out with the RV from Ansley RV for the Pennsylvania Adventure RV Expo. I'll actually take the RV to the expo, and we'll be broadcasting live from that expo at the Altoona Convention Center. So come on down and say hi. Let's go ahead and talk about this past winter so far. You know, you can always go back on wearecentralpa.com and check out the wintercast, and thought it would be a milder winter. And here is the chart of winter. Now, meteorological winter is December, January, February. What's on your calendar with March 21st, that doesn't follow the weather. That has to do with the position of the sun, where we base a lot of calendar things. The December, January, February are the three coldest months of the year, so that's where we break off the winter records. And you can see here, this is a milder winter. Milder than the previous three winters. You have to go 4 years ago till we had a milder winter. Ranked 7th overall. There it is right there. 7th overall with still 5 more days to be counted into there as the mildest winters on record. And in my winter cast, and when I had some El Nino talks, I talked about how with strong El Ninos, we tend to have milder winters. It was not the same as 97, 98. I did not proclaim it would be the same, and 97, 98 is number one on there. And our times of warmth have been different. But the end result is when you get the Pacific that warm in certain places, there's a fire hose of flow from the Pacific on into the United States, and that's what's been interrupting the cold air. Now, speaking of cold air, here's the upper GFS 500 millibar map for 12Z on Friday. And yeah, we still have some Arctic air that's bleeding on into the region. It's going to be a cold day. Don't get me wrong. It'll be a cold wind. Many spots won't get out of the 20s. However, I think the worst of the Arctic blast, the worst of the winter's cold is now behind us. And I'm going to explain that. I'm not saying that all of a sudden it's going to be sunshine, 70 degrees, but I'm saying the worst of the winter is behind us. And remember, spring isn't what everyone pictures with sunshine and flowers blooming. Here in central Pennsylvania, spring is cloudy, it's wet, it's showery, and it's snow. There's snow in spring in some of our biggest snowstorms, including one of the biggest in Altoona, which was late April in 1928. All right, so, but I think we're pulling into what I would classify as a cold spring pattern, or heading into spring pattern. All right, so here's the 500 millibar flow again. We have cold air, we have the trough moving through on Friday. But look what happens. I want you to see this flow coming in off of the Pacific. A lot of Pacific air just being bled into southern Canada and into the United States. And we're going to have a rebound over the weekend. Now, Saturday we'll start in the teens. Afternoon temperatures getting close to 40. And by Sunday afternoon, we're going to be near 60 in some spots. Upper level low, pocket of cold air. All the real cold air just recirculates and stays up in Canada. All right, so let's move forward in time. Here's Tuesday afternoon. All right, we have, and I always talk about, we watch the ridge in east. When there's a ridge in east and a trough in the west, we're cold. And here we go. Look at this. Big ridge extends up to the pole, trough in the east. That's why we're cold on Friday. Let me jump back to Tuesday. All right, we're starting to pop a little more of a ridge. We do have some trouble coming our way, and this is a feature I'm keeping an eye on. Now, don't get me wrong. It's going to warm up early next week. It's going to be actually quite mild again. But this is a little trouble on the GFS. It rotates it through, takes an upper level low down to our south, doesn't totally phase the systems, and kind of cuts it to our south. The end result, let's go ahead and take a look at the GFS surface. And here is the area of low pressure. We have a warm front, and we're south of it. Where this track plays a lot of issues. So we're on that dividing line with cold air in eastern Canada that I mentioned bleeding on down into this system. And the GFS does something that I do not agree with. And cuts it to our south. Gives us a wintry mix to snow. This has not been the way the winter has been running. All right? It's there. I'm not taking it totally off the table. I don't buy this. I do buy a solution more in the European, and not just because it's a European. The European at times hasn't been as strong this year, but the European cuts the storm to the west. This winter, what has been the theme? A lot of storms have cut to our west. And I do think that that's going to be a likely track, and we're going to warm up a lot Tuesday. Wednesday we'll have rain showers, then we'll bring some colder air on behind it. But if you notice where the high is, it's down here. Flow around the high. So there's really not that much cold air with the European behind that system. Now, here, let's break down the European upper air. Backing up, Friday. Again, we have some of that Arctic air bleeding on into the region. Friday, a cold day. Both models agree. Big ridge in the west, trough in the east, and so Friday, the work week ends cold. Over the weekend here, Sunday morning, there's my fire hose. A lot of Pacific air moving on in, cold air getting locked up in Canada. All right, so we warm up Sunday. Monday, a weak disturbance. Monday and Tuesday, I still think are warm. And here's the European. Okay, less energy back here. It is interesting. European sometimes lacks energy. I want to know where that energy goes. Maybe that's more progressive and phases into something stronger. But I think the end result is something cuts to our west. And then it tries to redevelop something off the coastline, but there's just not much cold air to work with on the European. So, and then I want you to notice here, and this is next Friday. Yeah, we have unsettled weather. And as I mentioned, we're not heading into the spring that everyone dreams of sunshine and temperatures are just warming day after day. It's going to be an unsettled pattern. And yes, there's going to be some snowflakes, and yeah, we have a disturbance moving through next Friday evening. But I want you to notice, and there's just another one on Sunday. So there's disturbances moving through. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be cool. It's going to be unsettled. But the Arctic is shut off. And this is why I think winter's back is broken. Look at all these low heights here on the European. Maybe this is overdone. But even if it isn't overdone, I mean, it's far from a big ridge nosing its way all the way up to grab cross-polar flow. A lot of Pacific air. It can be cold, but I don't think it's going to become bitter again. So we're cutting off the Arctic air. If you're not a fan of winter, I think things are easing up a bit. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in tonight on WTAJ News at 11. I'll have more details on your short-term forecast and how it's going to warm up over the weekend after a cold Friday.